The most reliable engine Lexus ever built has a rubber part inside it that will destroy the car if you ignore it. It is not a defect, it is not a recall, it is a scheduled maintenance item, printed in the owner's manual. And the overwhelming majority of people who buy these cars used have no idea it exists. By the time they find out, the number they are looking at is 4 figures, sometimes 5. That engine is still on the good list today. It absolutely deserves to be. But this is the thing nobody tells you about Lexus reliability. The reputation is real. It is also conditional. So let's go through it properly. 3 engines you should walk away from, 4 you should actively look for, and the specific reasons for each. Worst engine number 3, the 3GR FSE. 3 liters, V6, direct injection. And it lasted exactly 1 model year in the United States. This is the engine in the 2006 GS300. 1 year, that is the entire American run. For 2007, Lexus replaced the GS300 with a GS350, running a bigger 3.5-liter V6, making around 303 horsepower. More power, essentially the same fuel economy, better in every measurable way, which tells you something about how confident Lexus was in the 3GR. The reliability side is not catastrophic, but it is real. The most serious item is the fuel pressure sensor, where the gasket between the sensor and the fuel delivery pipe can degrade over time. When that seal goes, you get fuel leaking into a hot engine bay. That is a fire risk, not an inconvenience. The bigger problem is what happens when you go to sell it. You own a 1-year-only engine in a 1-year-only trim of a car that got comprehensively outclassed 12 months later. Parts availability is thinner, buyers are fewer, and every used GS350 on the market is a better car sitting next to yours. If you were shopping a 3rd-generation GS, the 2007 and later 350 is the buy. The 2006 300 is the one you walk past. Worst engine number 2, the 1U RFSE. This one is more interesting, because on paper it should have been excellent. When Lexus retired the old 4.3-liter V8 in the LS and the 4.7 in the GX, the 4.6-liter 1U looked like a clean upgrade. D4S dual injection, dual VVTi-E, aluminum block and heads, modern, efficient, more power. Then, the valve springs started breaking.
Toyota found that metal impurities in the valve spring material could create small cracks that eventually fractured the spring outright. When a valve spring breaks, the engine behaves like it is starving. Sluggish throttle, sudden power loss, heavy misfires, and shaking. In the worst cases, it stalls and will not restart. The affected production was recalled. Specifically, the 2007 and 2008 LS460 and LS460L, and the 2008 GS460. And there is a second issue on some 1UR-powered cars, which is the same fuel pressure sensor gasket problem. Fuel leaking into the engine bay, often with no warning except the smell. Here's the practical version. The recall repair was free, and most affected cars had it done years ago, but most is not all. If you were buying a 2007 or 2008 LS460, run the VIN and confirm that campaign was actually completed. That is a 5-minute phone call to any Lexus dealer, and it is the difference between a great car and a grenade. Worst engine number 1, the 4GR FSE, 2.5 liters, V6, 204 horsepower, and it is in the single most common used Lexus on the American market, the IS250. 2006 through 2013. Here's what went wrong, and it is a design decision, not a manufacturing defect. The 4GR is direct injection only. Fuel gets sprayed straight into the combustion chamber and never passes through the intake port. That is efficient. It is also the entire problem. In a port-injected engine, fuel constantly washes across the back of the intake valves and keeps them clean. Remove that, and oil vapor coming through the crankcase ventilation system bakes onto the hot valve heads instead, layer after layer. The intake ports end up looking like the inside of a chimney. The buildup restricts airflow. In bad cases, it holds a valve fractionally off its seat. What the owner experiences is a rough cold start, a shaky idle, random misfires, sputtering at stops, check engine and VSC lights, sudden power loss, and stalling when the revs drop. And you can't fix it with a bottle. There is no additive that reaches the back of an intake valve on a direct injection engine because fuel does not go there. The actual repair is pulling the intake manifold and blasting the valves clean with crushed walnut shell. It's a full day of labor. Now, here's the part that matters. Lexus knew. In 2012, they issued a customer support program covering carbon buildup in the cylinder head and combustion chambers on this engine. They mailed letters to registered owners. They extended coverage to 9 years with unlimited mileage. Not a recall. Lexus classified it as a drivability and emissions issue rather than a safety defect, so it was handled through service bulletins and a support program instead. That coverage has now expired. Every one of those cars is past 9 years, which means today's used IS250 buyer pays for all of it themselves. And it is not the only issue on this engine. There is cylinder bore scuffing, most often the fifth cylinder, which shows up as gradually increasing oil consumption and blue smoke on a cold start. Because the cylinder liners are cast into the aluminum block with thin walls, the block cannot be bored oversize. The fix is a new block. There is also the VVTi oil supply line. Early cars used a rubber hose feeding the variable valve timing system. That hose degrades, develops a pinhole, and sprays oil until the engine starves. Toyota replaced it with a metal pipe and covered it under a service campaign for 2006 through 2010 cars. None of that means an IS250 is unviable. Plenty of them run past 200,000 miles. It means the cheap one with no service history is cheap for a reason, and you are the one funding the catch-up. Now the good news, and there is a lot of it. Best engine number 4, the 2GR FSE. This is the answer to everything I just described. Same era, same cars more or less. The IS350 and the GS350 run a 3.5-liter V6 making a little over 300 horsepower. And unlike the 4GR, it runs D4S, 2 sets of injectors, direct injection into the cylinder and port injection upstream. The port injectors spray fuel across the back of the intake valves exactly the way an older engine would, which means the carbon problem that defines the IS250 essentially does not happen here. Same generation, same body, same badge on the trunk except for one number. Completely different ownership experience. Be honest about the caveats though. The 2GR FSE can see the same cylinder scuffing, just far less often. And it shares that early rubber VVTi oil line covered by the same campaign on the same 2006 through 2010 window. Check that it was done. But if you were shopping a second-generation IS and you can stretch to the 350, stretch. The gap between those two cars is much wider than the price difference suggests. Best engine number 3, the 2JZ GE. Yes, that 2JZ, without the turbos. 3 liters, inline 6, cast iron block. Found in the IS300, the GS300 of the previous generation, and the SC300. The turbocharged 2JZ GTE gets all the attention because of what it does with boost. The naturally aspirated GE gets overlooked, and that is a mistake, because as a thing you actually drive every day, it is arguably the better engine. Same fundamental architecture, same closed-deck iron block, same 7 main bearings holding the crankshaft. It's enormously overbuilt for what it is asked to do, which is exactly why they keep running. It is also a timing belt engine, and we are about to talk about what that means. Best engine number 2, the 3UZ FE. 4.3-liter all-aluminum V8, and this one was Lexus only. It never went into a Toyota. This is the LS430 engine, 2001 through 2006, and the LS430 is the car that a lot of people will tell you is the most reliable luxury sedan ever built. That is not marketing. That reputation was earned by owners putting genuinely absurd mileage on them. But the 3UZ drives its camshafts with a belt, not a chain.
The interval is 90,000 miles or 9 years, whichever comes first. And the 3UZ is an interference engine. If that belt breaks while the engine is running, the pistons and the valves occupy the same space at the same time. That is not a repair. That is a new engine. Best engine number 1, the 1UZ FE, 4-liter V8, 1989. This is the engine that built the entire brand. When the LS400 arrived, Toyota needed it to be so smooth and so quiet that Mercedes and BMW buyers would take a Japanese badge seriously. The 1UZ is what convinced them. It went into the LS400, the SC400, and later the GS400. They are still running. 300,000 miles is common, 500,000 is not unheard of, and it is a belt engine too. 90,000 miles. So here is the thing that connects the top of this list, and it is the single most useful thing here. The 1UZ, the 2UZ in the LX470, and the 3UZ all use timing belts, not chains. The later UR series V8s that replace them switch to chains, and that is where the confusion comes from, because people read that Lexus V8s use chains and assume theirs does. There's an argument online about whether a broken belt destroys these engines or just strands you. Sources genuinely disagree, and it varies by year and by variant. Ignore that argument entirely. It is the wrong question. The interval is 90,000 miles either way. The belt itself usually is not even what fails. It's the water pump or an idler pulley seizing and taking the belt with it, which is why the job is done as a kit with the pump, the tensioner, and both pulleys together. Gambling several $1,000s against a maintenance item you were told about in writing is a bad trade, and it does not become a better trade because 2 forums disagree about how bad the failure is. So, the short version: avoid the 3GR FSE, the early 1UR FSE without a verified recall, and the 4GR FSE, unless the carbon work is documented. Look for the 2GR FSE, the 2JZ GTE, the 3UZ, and the 1UZ. And if you buy one of those last 3, the first thing you do is find out when the timing belt was last done. Not the mileage on the car, the mileage on the belt. If the seller doesn't know, assume it hasn't been done, and price it accordingly.